With the GLVC Indoor Track Championships coming up this weekend, we have a chance to sit down now with track head coach Thomas Breitbach. Let's kind of jump into kind of your road to get to Parkside to where you are today. You were more of a distance runner yourself coming out of college, and now you're kind of tasked with kind of advising in all different facets of track and field. So what's that kind of been like for you to this point?
It's been a fun transition. Definitely being able to step out of the comfort zone and be able to expand the knowledge base beyond what my personal experience was like. I was really fortunate to be on a program that was a very complete track and field team that was second at the Indoor National Championships with scoring in the throws, scoring multi-events, and scoring in the short sprints and the relay. So having a sense of both how that environment feels as well as what looks like component parts, and then just trying to replicate that in terms of that excitement across the event groups for each other and for the kids that are, on the track team but are doing a different sort of workout for you. So it's a juggling act, but it definitely is something that when you get it right, it feels really fun.
You mentioned kind of your career leading up to this. Can you kind of talk about maybe what got you here today to how to be the head coach of the Parkside track team, and kind of what your road in track and field has looked like?
I was a graduate of UW Eau Claire and worked as a student assistant coach there during my 5th year, and then I volunteered at Marquette University for 2 years afterwards, where I got to work with their middle distance and long distance runners, and that was a cool way to look at the Division I level and see what's a little bit more resources can open up there, but also that money's not everything, and the ability to just have kids that work hard for each other translates to. As a graduate assistant coach at a small Division III school, Edgewood College is in Madison, Wisconsin, and then that led me right into starting here. So Parkside had always been one of those spots that I wanted to wind up at since I was in college, and was unbelievably lucky to get an interview and to wind up here early on in my career.
So one of the nice things about track, obviously, is that you have the opportunity to do outdoor and indoor. There's kind of really no off season for track. This weekend you got the Indoor Championships coming up from University of Indianapolis. How do you guys kind of prepare for that, getting ready for that, and maybe pushing some of your athletes to the national championships?
Yeah, so the big focus the whole last 2 weeks has really been how do we orchestrate our energy to get individuals and groups to the right spot at the right time for this weekend. So 2 weeks ago at Grand Valley, we sort of used that as a test run to be able to be in a really big meet environment, be able to test drive, doing 2-day meets for some folks, and be in a very high level of competition, so that when we get to those sort of elements this weekend down in Indianapolis, they're very familiar, we're comfortable with it, and we sort of ironed out any of the little things that weren't exactly as we wanted them to be 2 weeks ago. So a lot of it's building that mental energy, testing it that weekend, and then the majority of our athletes last weekend either ran a shorter distance or tuned up in a different events, or we had some folks that took the weekend off of competition to be able to focus a little bit more on training and make sure that we're sort of saving up a little bit of that extra competitive adrenaline and energy, so we've got an extra dose of it for this weekend.
So one of the big things that's taken place over the last couple of weeks is your distance medley relay team actually set the school record by about 12 seconds. What do you think kind of sets that group apart that's put them up into the record books for Parkside history?
I mean, there's a fun group that works very, very well together. They're more than a sum of each of their parts. And the 4 guys that ran on the relay ran exceptionally well, but we've got guys like Zach Kadrowski and Jimmy Fontius who are elemental parts of training with that group, and as we even go into this conference weekend, we've got that flexibility to know that we've got 6 really exceptional guys that make each other better day in and day out and get each other excited about what they can do in the sport. And that, I think, we got a taste of that at Grand Valley.
You've also got a couple of field athletes that are ranking right at the top of their respective field events so far. Rashad Gray's holding the #1 position in the high jump, and Tavion Stewart sitting at #1 in the long jump. Obviously for you, as we mentioned to start this off, you're a distance guy, but now you're working with these field athletes as well, and they're doing such a spectacular job. What's that kind of been like for you to watch them kind of evolve over the course of this year?
So our assistant coach, Lamont Johnson, who just recently left for a head coaching position out in North Carolina, really set the tone for those guys with a great fall of training, and early on this indoor season of setting things up to be coming into competitions with that right sort of training and the right sort of environments. And we're fortunate to be able to just fine-tune that. I think the bigger things is that Rashad and Tay are just very competitive guys. They love competing well, they love winning, and they hate to lose. So they pour that with some natural ability. It makes for a pretty fun combination. And then one guy who's really been a great X factor for us is Trayvon Brown, who's come in, added a lot of technical expertise. He's great at both the long jump and the high jump, and just makes track practice a lot of fun. And I think that sort of balances out that competitiveness really well to make all 3 of those guys really exceptional talents that are at the top of their game right now.
So after this weekend, you've got nationals coming up in March for the indoors. and then you kind of go outdoors, but you have a 2-month break in between those two. What's that 2 months kind of look like for you guys, maybe training-wise?
So the first little bit of that is sort of just recovery and consolidation from the indoor season. We put a pretty good amount of wear and tear, so we want to make sure that we're able to kind of catch our breaths, catch up on little aches and pains, and make sure that everyone's coming back to life a little bit. And then normally, depending on the event group, about a 4-week more strength and fitness phase before we get back into event-specific stuff, end of March, early part of April. So we want to make sure that we've got the recovery that we're feeling like we can sustain, hopefully through the end of May for a lot of kids, but be able to get back to the fundamentals of feeling fit, feeling ready, and then fine-tuning that again come this April to be ready to compete.
Well, a big weekend ahead for the UW Parkside track and field team. They will head to Indianapolis for the Indoor GLVC Championships with a chance to go to Nationals in March. Thomas Breitbach, thank you for joining us very much. Good luck this weekend.
My pleasure. Thank you.